No claims bonuses, or as I like to think about them, use your product penalty. We pool risk. If something goes wrong, there's enough money in that pool to go and pay for all those houses to be rebuilt.
Like, we want to settle claims, that's what we're here for. When you make a claim, we really become a partnership. We're working together with you. The more that you're able to participate in the process, the faster we can get things going.
Team, welcome to our first ever claims masterclass. So pretty excited about a chat today where we're going to dive into the engine room of Initio, the claim. You know, the claim is the product at the end of the day. It is the thing that we are selling to our customers, but it's such an intangible thing by nature, you know, so a lot of customers only get to experience it when things go wrong. So yeah, you guys are the experts. So Gary, you're our head of risk. You live at the intersection of data, risk, reinsurance and strategy, and Hannah, you're our head of claims. Obviously responsible for our team that deliver our products. So we'd love to get to know you guys a little bit more. So Gary, you first. Tell us a little bit more about our head of risk.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, so my journey in insurance started with Initio about, almost 10 years ago now. Got into it straight out of uni and just fell in love with the industry. It's a fascinating thing. I love the risk elements. I love all the complexities that are in the market, but then it's also great to see how we can kind of simplify that. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time around underwriting and pricing and risk modeling and all the kind of fun bits that sit around the industry. But yeah, rubber hits the road on the claim side, and so that's what I'm really excited to talk about today. Get into like how that actually works and what we're trying to do for everyone to make it a better place.
Yeah, awesome. And Hannah?
Yeah, cool. So I started in insurance back in kind of 2013, so kind of 12 years ago now. I started out kind of doing some loss adjusting, so that's really kind of the cold face of the claim. You're out there, you're at people's houses, you're kind of getting to the bottom of what's happened and what's damaged and how much it's going to cost to put things right. So I kind of did that and kind of moved into more of kind of the delegated claims side, which I did for a number of years, and then moved back into Initio. Kind of in that claims space. I really enjoy kind of the combination of kind of the analysis and the people, obviously I'm biased, but we've got a great claims team here, and so just kind of in my role as the head of claims, supporting them to have what they need to be able to kind of give customers a great claims experience. Kind of asking people about their journey into insurance is always interesting because it's one of those industries that's not kind of widely publicised. Not a lot of school kids are thinking, you know, when I leave school, I want to kind of go into insurance. I think as an industry, we've kind of got some work to do to kind of show people how cool it is. You know, like I'm really passionate about insurance and kind of the industry. Like, I think it's full of really awesome people who have kind of found their way here for some reason. You know, they've kind of moved across, or they've kind of taken a job and kind of worked their way through. I think it's always interesting hearing people's kind of journeys into where they are in the insurance industry space.
A lot of people certainly fall into it. Yeah. I mean, all of us in this room are probably guilty of that. But now we're here, you know, maybe there's nowhere else we'd rather be.
Yeah.
But hey, just thinking about the claims, like, is there anything memorable in a sense, or any funny claims that come to mind, you know, when you think back quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Claims is an interesting space because a lot of the time we're dealing with the kind of, you know, the bad and the sad, you know, things are coming to us because they've been in a car accident, or their house has been damaged, or there's been a fire, or they've lost their wedding rings and stuff like that. So we certainly take seriously the kind of the gravity of the situation for our customers, but certainly there are some that, you know, kind of us and customers are like, you know, as a parent, the ones that I, you know, kind of am amused by are the ones where, you know, the toddler has like scratched the TV with the scissors, or they've lost the car keys, or those kinds of ones certainly are memorable, or the ones with, you know, we get some lovely customers who kind of grossly understate the extent of damage in their claims. So I remember speaking with a lady once who was like, oh, there's been a bit of damage at a building here, and by the time we got some photos back, kind of half the side of the building had collapsed. So those ones certainly make for some pretty memorable claims.
Yeah, awesome. Now, rumour has it there's quite an infamous claim that involved a vacuum cleaner and a dog inside a house. Is there anything?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Certainly with kind of the increase in like consumer electronics and, yep, vacuums doing their own thing, and even robot lawnmowers, kind of kamikazing themselves into bonfires, or lots of those kinds of situations kind of present a lot of interesting situations that, kind of 10 years ago, they weren't common types of claims, whereas we definitely see more of those.
Yeah, nice. Oh, well, let's zoom out for a minute here. And Gary, I'd love you to talk to us about, well, how insurance works. 101, people pay premiums, and how that money is handled and how that ultimately flows through to a claim. Could you take us through that at a high level?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. There's a lot of detail to the insurance world, but the high level picture is fundamentally what we do with insurance is we pool risk together, and that's kind of thinking about, if I have a fire at my house, then I can't wear that financial loss, right? But it's probably not going to happen, so that's a risk you can kind of take. But if it does happen, it's a total disaster, right? And so what you do is you say, well, okay, let's look at us as a neighborhood and say, if everyone around the block says, okay, if one of our houses burns down, then we'll all chip in to help them. And that's kind of that community sense of what the insurance industry is. So the way it fundamentally works is we come together basically as a whole country, and we say, all right, we'll all pay a little bit of premium every year to offset that risk, so that if something goes wrong, or even a whole bunch of some things, like a large event goes wrong, there's enough money in that pool to go and pay for all those houses to be rebuilt, or all those cars, or whatever it might be, right?
Right.
And so the flow is that you've got this premium coming from everyone, and then anything that goes wrong, that's the pool that goes and pays for those losses to be remediated and reinstated.
Yeah, that's really good explanation there. And you see some different models starting to appear in market. So you've talked about the community element of insurance, and a lot of people talk about risk-based pricing. Did you just want to talk really quickly about the difference between the two and how they intersect?
Really quickly is tricky. I mean, give me 2 hours. But yeah, look, it's a very hot talking point. The big idea is effectively, if you think about community-based pricing, it's like we've all got a house, we'll all chip in $100, and that's the price. Risk-based pricing is saying we've all got houses. Some people in Wellington live in very high earthquake-prone areas, or there's some stuff on the shore that's very high risk of being flooded. And so we'll get them to pay a little bit more to represent that risk. And so that's kind of how those two models change. One of them is everyone just pays the same, very egalitarian, but there's nuance to both of them. The other one is very much pay for what the risk you carry. And when it comes back to the claims side of things, ultimately I think the market moves towards that risk-based pricing, because that's a way to ensure that as we understand more about the claims that are likely to come up and the risks that exist, finding ways to make sure we've always got enough reserve, and if there's enough capital to kind of pay for all those claims, and make sure that if something goes wrong, no matter what it is, that we'll be in a position to pay is the key.
Yeah, nice. Okay, that's awesome, and a perfect segue back to you, Hannah, around the claim. So something's gone wrong. So what's the first step that someone should take when they make a claim?
Yeah, so I guess the first step that someone should take if something's gone wrong is that we want them to make things safe to mitigate loss. So, for example, that's calling the fire brigade before calling us, calling a plumber before calling us. If there are things immediately that you need to do to keep the property safe or to keep you safe, in natural disaster events as well, the recommendations are kind of following the advice of civil defence, local authorities. Keep yourself safe, because we can always sort out the claim. So when something has gone wrong and you need to make a claim, jump into your Initio dashboard to be able to lodge that claim through online. Because we're an online insurance provider, all of our claims do get lodged through online, so you can give us a call to have a chat about your situation, to find out more about what the claim might look like once you lodge it, but it does ultimately need to be lodged online.
Yeah, and that's probably a point that I'd love to touch on more. So, you know, the saying in the business is all about being digital by default, but human when it matters, and claims is the perfect intersection of those two. But we've got this smart claims platform that we've won these awards for. Yeah, could you talk about how smart claims kind of supports the claim process at Initio?
Yeah, definitely. So Smart Claims is a really awesome kind of guided walkthrough of the claim lodgement process. So when you go into your dashboard to lodge the claim, it's going to ask you up front kind of what type of claim you want to lodge. And so what that allows us to do is to tailor the questions that you get asked for that type of claim. It means that we can make the simple claims really simple. If you need to lodge a glass claim, you can do that with kind of bare minimum info. We just need to know kind of when it happened and whether you'd like to organise the repairs or whether you'd like us to organise the repairs. So we definitely try to keep those ones simple. For more complex claims, obviously there is more information that helps us, and the more information we can get when the claim is lodged, the quicker and the more efficiently that we'll be able to deal with it. So Smart Claims also allows us to, for natural disaster type events, to ask more questions and to ask more specific questions. And also to tailor those questions as the event goes on. Sometimes as significant disaster events go on, as an industry we find out that kind of there are some critical pieces of information that we could be collecting up front. So that might be if councils implement processes around kind of stickering buildings, we can be asking for that type of information. So it just allows us to have a really dynamic process. It means that for customers it's not more complicated than it needs to be, but on those ones that are kind of more complex losses, that we can get that information up front to be able to deal with them quickly for customers.
So Hannah, if someone's unsure whether they have a claim or not, what would kind of be your suggested advice?
Yeah, so if you're not sure about whether your situation or your loss or your damage or whatever's happened at your place is a claim, I definitely encourage you to reach out. Either you can just go ahead and lodge the claim online and we can look over the information and then come back to you and let you know whether it's a claim or not a claim. Or you can certainly just reach out to us by phone or by email. The team, one of the things that's really important to us is that humanness, that kind of personable, contactable, really available. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out if you're kind of not sure whether this is a claim or not.
Yeah, because I think our Smart Claims platform also helps with that as well, right? You start your journey and you launch your claim, and those questions will guide you and tell you if this is something which is covered or might not be covered. But I think, again, what you've said is we're approachable, right? If it doesn't make sense or if you're feeling a bit unsure, you can always reach out, which I think is what, digital by default. Launch the claim, get online, do it through your dashboard. Human when it matters if you're not sure, if you need a bit of reassurance or guidance or you're just not comfortable with it, ask us. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Some people are nervous about what lodging a claim might mean for them. Some people are like, I don't want to lodge a claim unless I know that it's going to be a claim. So sometimes what we'll tell people, is that they don't need to be hesitant about lodging a claim. If it's something that we can accept and we can move forward with, then we will. Yep. But if it's something that's not covered, we would just let them know. They can just withdraw the claim, we would just close it off and it's not an issue.
And this is a really good point. Like, within the industry, a lot of people, have got things like a no claims bonus in the back of their mind. So Gary, what are your thoughts on things like a no claims bonus?
All right, here we go. No claims bonuses, or as I like to think about them, the use your product penalty. I think I've got very strong feelings about this, and I'm happy to take different opinions, not happy to listen to them. But look, the idea with a no claims bonus is you say, if you don't claim, we give you some kind of discount to your insurance policy. It sounds okay, but on the face of it, what it's saying is you have this product, right? You've bought this guarantee to say if something happens, we're there to fix it. And we're going to penalize you by making you pay more for your premium if you go ahead and do that, if you make us fulfill our promise, you have to pay more for it. That doesn't feel right to me. That's what I have a strong opinion about. And so I think when it comes to what we do here, we don't have that on our house and contents cover, right? We don't do that. We don't have that, call it a no claims bonus or call it a loading for claims or whatever you want to call it. Because it's, from my perspective, I think it just works a little bit against what we're trying to achieve.
It's not like a badge of honor not to have a claim. That's what the product is there for, right?
And I think, and again, I think there's some validity, or there's something about that as well. If you think, oh great, I don't have any claims, I don't want to have any claims. I mean, nobody does because losses are not fun anyway, right? But if that's what you want to do, that's where you can say, great. If I'm not going to claim for the, I don't know, broken glass or knocked over toucan or whatever else, I'm going to go ahead and just set my excess really high, and that gives you a significant reduction in your premium. Because you're not going to claim for anything that's small or inconsequential, right?
It's a really good point you've touched on there, Hannah. Like things like excess levels. Do you have any thoughts, feelings, emotions when it comes to the strategy around setting different levels of excess?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, I guess, give anyone any personal advice, but it is really about kind of anticipating how you'll deal with an excess when, if something were to happen. It does. We do really feel for customers who might not be in a financial position to take some of those higher losses, choosing a high excess. So it is really just about customers weighing up those options and reaching a decision that kind of is right for their own situation, for their own kind of risk tolerance, for their own financial situation, and how likely it is that they would make a claim if it was something, because there are people who are, they wear that no claims, I've never made an insurance claim like a badge of honour, and those are the people who, if you're not going to make a claim, probably have a high excess so that you're at least getting, the reduced premium to reflect the likelihood that you're going to claim for something small.
Yeah. And with just drilling into smart claims a little bit now, so there's a lot of technology in there. Did you want to give us a really quick run through around just the technology elements of smart claims and how it helps your team process a claim?
Yeah, so what Smart Claims does is the information that it collects, it then kind of presents it to our claims handler in a way that's easy for them to process. Things like asking for your bank account number when we need your bank account number and not making you enter it when we're not, when we're going to be paying your motor vehicle repairer, and things like that just kind of add to the efficiency of the process for the customer and for the claims team as well.
Okay, so we're backed by IAG in the New Zealand market. We've got this great technology, smart claims. So how do we bring these two together to deliver these experiences for customers when it comes to using the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So our backing with IAG is very important to us. It means we've got the largest insurer in the country backing us, and we've got there's always going to be enough to take care of any disaster or anything that happens. And what our smart claims and our model does is we then have a lot of capability to respond quickly and to use our technology to streamline that process. And so when we ask those questions up front, and when we do, again, the bank account number is a great example, we'll only ask that if there's going to be, if we need it, and we're not going to ask when we don't need it. But asking it up front also just saves time later down the line. It means we're not going to call you in 2 weeks and say, oh, hey, we're coming back to you. Can you give us your bank account number so we can get this, or send you an email? No. We cut all that out and just make it really quick and efficient. And that means the simple stuff can stay simple. But I think it also just allows us to have quite a responsive process in our claims.
Let's talk about customer experiences and outcomes. So what can a customer expect when they submit a claim with Initio?
Cool. So first up, we aim to come back to customers kind of within a day on their new claims. So in terms of timeframes, hopefully that's helpful for people. Normally at the beginning of a claim, we'll be trying to understand what's happened, what might be damaged, what might need to be done to put things right, and also if we need to engage other people. So we might need kind of a loss adjuster for water damage, for example. We might need someone kind of on the ground who can come out to your place and actually have a look, get a real understanding of what's happened and kind of what the repairs are going to need to be.
There's a lot of moving parts here, like from a customer's perspective. What do you find that people often misunderstand about the process?
Sometimes we get customers who kind of aren't willing to participate in the process. They've lodged the claim and they're just waiting for someone to come and repair it the next day. When you make a claim, we really become a partnership. We're working together with you. We're the wallet, we've got the money because that's what your insurance policy covers. But we still need your help with kind of facilitating, having a builder come around and get a quote, for example, or supplying some photos if you're able to. So those things do really help us, and kind of the more that you're able to participate in the process, the faster we can get things going. Otherwise, we can kind of see ourselves kind of get a little bit delayed if kind of you're not able to send photos in and then we need to send someone out to have a look at it, or
Yeah, and I guess this is a big part of the smart claims technology. It's to help the customer keep things moving with your team.
Yeah, definitely. So it means that kind of as the situation develops, and obviously on some straightforward claims that doesn't, a laptop claim, although even then, you might get more information. You might kind of be able to take it to a local place and get a damage report, and then you can upload that into your Initio dashboard into the claim. When that happens, sometimes customers aren't sure whether we'll notice it there, but we do get a message, we do get prompted to say, hey, customers uploaded more information into their claim. So then we jump in there and kind of action that next step to keep things moving along.
So how do we make sure that claims are fair and consistent for customers?
Yeah, so keeping a close-knit claims team is really important, kind of continuing to kind of train and upskill and kind of understand industry best practice around kind of claims decisions. Obviously, ultimately, the claim is determined by the policy wording. So that, along with your policy schedule, is what makes your contract of insurance. And often what we see is, kind of a perception that, kind of there's small print, or that customers are being surprised by kind of what's in that policy wording. And so, I'll say to people far and wide, like, if you're going to take out an insurance policy, have a read of it. There are ways, using AI, you could kind of summarize it, or whatever you've got to do to kind of to be able to understand what's in it, what you're covered for, what some limitations of the policy might be, because we don't want there to be any surprises at claim time, but where customers kind of haven't taken a moment to understand what they're covered for, sometimes that is difficult.
Using AI to interpret a policy is a bit of a pro tip. I like it. Because, you do hear from time to time there can be a perception that insurers don't pay out on a policy. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, as someone in the claims industry, I hate reading about insurance on social media, because there is a lot of kind of public rhetoric about, scumbag insurers, they find any way to, kind of weasel out of their way of paying a claim. And I just, from being this close to it, I'm like, that's not it. That insurers...
We pay 100% of valid claims?
Yeah, exactly. Like, insurers are here to pay claims. Claims teams are here to help customers through and pay for what we can. There are lots of kind of, if it's grey, pay, or if in doubt, pay it out. Like, we want to settle claims. That's what we're here for. And, it's rough when, customers are making claims for things that aren't covered. We don't want to be delivering bad news to customers, because we're here to help. And so, a lot of it comes down to, often there are things where the policy kind of says black and white that it's not covered. And so, if customers had that information up front, then there wouldn't be kind of those surprises. And the idea of kind of using the fine print to get out of paying claims, it's all the same size. It's there in the policy wording, and so.
Yeah, and the customer has a big role here. So, you know, we talk about policy documentation, all this stuff. We've built technology that helps the customer to transact online, but how do we keep things human and supportive, you know, to complement what we do at a technology level?
Yeah, we just always try to be really accessible. So we'll call customers if they're happy to, kind of chat through the situation by phone if there are any questions, or, always happy to have conversations by phone. Trying to kind of guide people through the process and kind of roadmap for them about, sometimes in water damage claims, there's a bit more information that we need before we can kind of make a decision, and so trying to provide for them, kind of, if this is what we find, this might be the outcome, and if this is what we find, this might be the outcome. Trying to, I guess, help support people and manage expectations kind of as early on in the piece.
And I think I'll just add to that one a little bit with on the other side of that accessibility, when you're trying to understand what you're covered for, that's where we've put a lot of effort into our site, because it is, reading a whole policy wording it's a undertaking, but very important. It protects the most valuable things that we own, right? And so what we've done is written a lot of content that you can find online, and we've put our chatbot, our AI bot over the top of that, so you can go and ask it the questions. So when it comes to a claim, you can say, hey, I've got this situation, what do you think? Or if you're just looking at whether or not you should get a policy or whatever else, you can ask it those questions and say, is this covered, isn't it covered, or how does this work? And it'll guide you to the right part of our site or our content or the wording to go and find out how that works. And so what I recommend as well is just getting into, and it's not a terribly exciting activity, but just getting to understand those big things that if you're really concerned about it, you want to make sure you're covered for fire or loss or whatever it is. Ask the question. Make sure, get yourself a bit of comfort around it. AI is great for that. Our chatbot's great for it. Reach out to us. But get that comfort to understand really what those big pieces are and understand what you're buying. And I think that'll also just help so much more when it comes to that claim side if you've done just a little bit of research on the start.
Yeah, the chatbot definitely is a recommendation, and we monitor the questions that are getting asked as well, as a way for us to kind of help make sure that the content that we're providing is relevant and kind of answers the questions that people are asking. So if customers aren't sure where to find that, kind of anywhere on the Initio website, kind of down in the bottom right hand, they'll kind of see the help box, and they'll be able to ask questions there. Yeah, and as Gary said, it gives you the answer and then kind of the links to the relevant pages on our website. So yeah, definitely a great tip.
Another good pro tip on a useful tool, digital tool, on the platform. So, thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Gary. It's been a good chat. Great to dive under the bonnet of Initio. Talk about the technology, talk about the human elements of the business and what we do. So, at the end of the day, we want people to use the product. The claim is the product. It's what we've invested so much in terms of our technology roadmap. So yeah, we want people to feel encouraged to use it, and yeah, we're here to support.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks.